You're listening to Errol Parker and Clancy Overall, editors of the Betoota Advocate on Desert Rock FM.
Well, welcome back to the Betoota Advocate radio show, recording live here in the Diamantina Shire. You're joined by myself, Clancy Overall, and of course, Errol Parker, editor-at-large. How are you, Errol?
Good, mate. Good to see that it's raining outside for a change. You know, the farmers will love it.
The farmers will love it.
Just a little bit more rain to finish off the crops before they harvest them in the summertime, so...
Well, as Slim Dusty says,
just
the
a
best
couple more
crops
weeks.
are always in flood reach, so hopefully not too much rain, but that is life on the land. Australians are rapidly decentralising by the minute right across this country as a result of this historical event known as the 2020-2021 pandemic of COVID-19. A lot of people have kind of become a bit more familiar with their home. You know, a lot more people spent time at home. A lot more people actually spend a lot more time with their family, which has been great. Net positive, you have to say. But, you know, when it comes to this world we're in, once upon a time, everyone kind of relied on magazines and I guess radio serials once upon a time and TV shows to kind of explain life at home, you know, parenthood and, of course, you know, just suburban life or life in town. And things have changed a lot, particularly during the pandemic. We have a lot more avenues. We have a lot more mediums. And one phenomena that has emerged over the last couple of years is that of people that look like you and live a life similar to yours telling your story or telling a story that's similar to yours and one that you're invested in. And, you know, there's a whole lot of words for this. Personalities.
It's a story as old as the Bible, it is.
Yep. Life, really? Life
itself.
Life, the trials and tribulations.
Back to the cave paintings of you know, Northern Europe in, you know, thousands and thousands of years ago.
Yeah, and for someone to garner a following in this day and age with so much on the internet, they're obviously speaking truth, and especially a consistent one that lasts. And today's guest is definitely that. We have... Mummy blogger is a word, it's contentious, but we are going to use it, and because it interests us as well, we want to know more about this world and all variations of this kind of, I guess, personality and this actual venture that a lot of people have gone on. Mummy blogger is one word. I would also say number one podcaster in Australia. Thank you for joining us, Amy Gerard.
Thank you for having me.
Now, we want to talk to you. You've got a new podcast out called Beyond the Likes.
Yes.
Which is pretty self-explanatory, but it also would speak to a lot of people who aren't really across your world because, you know, there's a lot of people that might not know you. Mm-hmm. There's a lot of people who do.
Yes.
But there's a lot of people who might not know you and would actually be interested in that story as well about, you know, people who are kind of followed and what life is like beyond the likes. But can you tell us just now, you know, here today, before we even get into the podcast that has gone number one on Apple, how did you find yourself in this position where you had so many people around the world invested in your day-to-day life, which in many cases looks a lot like theirs?
Yeah, I absolutely have no idea.
Yep.
To be honest, I just started out like any other Joe Blow when I had my firstborn. I guess I just started sharing, you know, the cute photos, the cute baby photos. And I think the only point of difference that I made was that I kind of told it a little bit more like how it is. I think when you enter motherhood, there's this unspoken agreement where you don't talk about the hard nights and you don't talk about the fact that your nipples get chewed up and they look like they've been in a blender. You just have to be very blessed because here you are, you've got this beautiful baby. And I was absolutely blessed and I loved being a mum, but it was so much harder than I had anticipated it being. So I shared all of the highs and I also shared all of the lows. And I think I was just a little bit more honest with my approach. And I guess people really resonated with that.
Yep.
Yeah, because a lot of the stuff that's really existed in that space historically has been, you know, basically put through the washing machine with a bit of kind of nappy sand on top.
Yeah.
And a soft lens.
Yeah, very,
Yes.
you know.
Sepia lens, yeah.
Do you think that a part of why it's resonated with so many people is because it's so much rawer than anything else really that's coming?
Yeah, and I think I would have loved to have, I mean, Instagram, 6 years ago wasn't as big as what it is now, but I would have loved to have been following along a mum who kind of gave me better insight into parenthood and what it was all about. Because I kind of went in with like rose-coloured glasses, and I love children, but I'd never obviously taken one home and had it forever. Yeah. So I went into it thinking it was going to be this beautiful thing. And again, I don't want to shit-can parenthood because it's absolutely amazing, but it's so hard. Like sometimes you don't sleep for 6 months, and sleep deprivation is an absolute like form of torture. But then you can have babies who don't breastfeed properly, or you don't have a milk supply, and then there's just a whole abundance of stuff. And I think every single mum is going through the same thing. But there was this unspoken agreement that it wasn't cool to talk about it as much. So the more I started voicing my opinion on things, the more others kind of followed along because they didn't want to feel as alone.
There's a lot of here.
Yeah. And they're like, fuck, I'm going through the same thing. Like my nipples are disintegrated off my body, and I haven't slept since, January 2016 and stuff like that. So it was just a more raw approach.
So you would say before you started, with this kind of honest portrayal of that life, as you said, it's something that it's special and it is everything you wanted it to be, but it also is a lot tougher than you thought. Would you say you were actually you'd only ever seen the milestone parenthood online, or and you were too young to remember your folks going through that kind of stuff?
To
remember how tough it was.
I don't remember. And also my mum is like Mother Teresa, so she's a different kettle of fish. But I don't remember us ever being hard work as kids. I mean, I'm sure we were. But I also, Instagram and like Facebook and stuff, it wasn't, like it was around, but it wasn't as prominent as what it is now. So I didn't have anything. You just have like the movies, the Hollywood movies, where you see the lady screaming in labour, and then they've got this adorable bundle of joy that they take home. And so you see
husband smoking a cigar in the hallway.
Yeah, exactly right. Yeah, and everyone lives happily ever after. Yeah.
Were people invested in your kind of story and your storytelling prior to all of this? Did they follow you on the journey of, meeting the father?
I wouldn't say that I had a big following back then. I had, I don't know, like 500 people. Just my friends were following me back then. It was probably more when I had Charlie and kind of told it like it is. But I think the biggest thing and the reason why they would send my stuff to other friends was because majority of the stuff that I would post, I'd always make sure that I inject a little bit of humour into it.
Yeah.
Because having a sense of humour with children is imperative. Imperative, otherwise you'll go crazy.
Yeah, and that was another thing we were going to say. You're not just all honest, raw details.
Oh, no, I'm not just shit-canning parenthood the whole time.
No. There's high spirits and there's a good sense of humour. You're a character.
I'm a character,
is what I guess a lot of your followers would kind of cotton on to quite early in the piece of following you. But it's not just one, one kid.
No, there's a few of them too. There's a few kids. I did all 3 in under 4 years. Yep. Which was, I mean, it was a lot of work.
Rapid fire nowadays, for sure.
Yeah,
definitely rapid fire. And I think my mum did all 3. I was the eldest, and then I had 2 brothers as well, and she did all of us in 3 years. Yeah. So she was even more cracked than I was. But I was like, oh, if she can do it, well, then I can do it. But not advisable.
Yeah, I think the kids would like you for it, though. In years to come, really. I think when kids are too far apart, it's not really the same.
And they are growing up. Like, I feel like I've done a lot of the sleepless nights and the hard parts. It was all kind of just blended in. There was just 3 years, which was just quite a big blur. Yep. And now, they all play together. Yep. I mean, they fight a lot as well, but they all play together and they can entertain each other, and they're like this little gang.
Well, what ages are we talking? Are they at the ages now where you can say, look after your little brother, look after your little sister?
Yes. So Charlie she's fantastic. She's my mother's helper. Yep. She is 5.5, and then Bobby just turned 4, and then Kobe is 2 something.
I just want to go back to that blur, because you talk to your sisters, your aunties, your mothers, you hear this story. You day to day, you're on task.
Yes.
Do you remember kind of the milestones that came in between all that? I mean, apart from the other child being born?
Are you talking about like when they first walked and stuff?
Yeah.
I remember a lot of Charlie. Yeah. I remember nothing of Bobby because I had Charlie and I just had her one-on-one for 21 months. So she's firstborn child, gets all of the attention, all of the love, everything. And then Bobby was born and he kind of had to, share me with Charlie for a year. And then I was pregnant and I had a horrendous pregnancy. So I kind of tapped out basically parenting him. Charlie had to step up. And then Kobe was born.
Yep.
So I remember a lot of Charlie. Bobby was just a blur because he was my spirited child. I just did a podcast on him.
Yeah.
And I think I will soak up Kobe as much as I can because he's my last.
Yep.
And he gets away with everything because he's my last. Yeah.
At what point do you remember thinking, we've got a lot going on?
I've made a huge mistake. When Kobe started being mobile.
Okay.
So when
Number
all
three.
three, when my last one could walk, I was truly fucked because they would all just run in different directions and I'm outnumbered.
Yep.
So 2 was very manageable. I could go to the shops, I could go to the parks, I could pretty much do anything on my own. 3 was fine until he could walk. Yeah, when Kobe was strapped to me, fine. When he was sitting in a pram, fine. Now that he can walk, it's terrifying. Yeah.
I think that a lot of young mothers out here are probably wondering, how much of the mental load does your husband carry? Because, you've been talking about passing a lot of the parenting on to Charlie, but probably not much on to Ryan with the unconventional spelling.
And and also
Rian.
Rian. Also, you just mentioned you were outnumbered. I was like,
well,
only just.
It's lucky I've come in on a day where I actually like him so I won't shit can him today. He works quite a high stressful job Monday to Friday. So when it wasn't COVID, he would leave at like 6:45 most mornings and then he doesn't get home till 7:30. So a lot of the mental and physical load was on me. On the weekend, he's very fantastic. He's a very hands-on dad. He's not great with newborns because he's almost got a little bit of ADD. I think himself. He hates he doesn't like to sit still. He doesn't like to chill out. He wants to be out riding bikes and just doing dumb shit. So with newborns, you can't do a lot of that.
Yeah.
And that was my thing. I love newborns. Maybe because I don't know, I'm a bit lazy. But so come the weekends, he really steps up and he'll take the older 2 out. I mean, now that Kobe can walk and stuff, he'll take all 3 out to the park and give me a break. Or he encourages me to go out and have girls' lunches and fill my cup up and stuff like that. So he's great on the weekends, but he's basically MIA during the week, which is why it feels so much harder than like if I had a tradie husband that got home at 3:34 and could help me with bedtime, that would be so amazing because that's like the shit kicker hours.
For sure.
Yeah.
The witching hours.
The witching hours where they've all just self-combusted. They're all overtired.
Well, maybe you could try and convince Rian to go through like a tool change.
Yeah. Believe me, I've tried.
Try to pack it in.
You ever thought of teaching?
Have you thought about carpentry?
Honestly, he can't even change a light bulb. He's not that guy.
Okay.
Yep.
So you're carrying a fair bit of the mental load here.
Yep.
And all of the light bulb changing.
I do a lot of light bulb changing as well. He gives it a red hot crack though.
So one thing I kind of want to talk about is before you went on this kind of adventure of telling the story to everyone, what were you doing beforehand? Did you have a career that would have prepared you for storytelling?
Oh God, no. When I was pregnant, I was working as a paralegal.
Okay.
So that's quite left field.
Yeah.
Before that, I did work in advertising. So I was always in advertising. I worked in TV production as a producer for a while. Never storytelling. I've always loved writing though.
Okay.
When I used to live overseas, I used to write my mum and dad letters that they still keep because they thought they were hilarious.
Yeah.
I just would recap certain things, bit tongue-in-cheek, using a lot of humour, making it more entertaining.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I've always enjoyed writing, and I think that's what I guess helped me with the gram.
And what kind of following are we talking now? Because this is going to inform my next question. You're in the hundreds of thousands.
Yeah, 105,000?
So a lot of young mothers will tell you, even anyone on the street, in the shopping centre, will walk up to you and give you unsolicited advice on how to raise your child. Yep. How does that feel with potentially 100,000 people? Do you get that? Do you get people sending you little hot tips about, hey, you should do this?
Yeah.
definitely did at the very beginning when I had one child,
Yeah.
but I feel like I'm a little bit of a seasoned pro now.
Yeah.
So if anything, I might be the person that gives hot tips only to girlfriends and only when asked.
Yeah.
I will never be that person that gives unsolicited advice. I don't like those
Like
people.
the person on the airplane, just hand it to me. Let me.
Yeah. Let me settle her. Oh, no, you're burping her wrong. No, yeah. I will never be that person. We all hate that person.
To make their ears pop, just hold them upside down. Give them a light shake.
Yeah. But no, I don't. I'm sure that there's a lot of people that slide into my DMs, but I don't see them.
you
because
can't-
I
you can't read them
get
all.
on top of them, no.
No, we have that too.
Yeah.
Anyone listening that has sent through potential hot scoops for us to cover on Betoota Advocate, I'm
Yeah.
sorry we didn't get back to you.
Yeah.
It was probably very offensive and we ignored it, or we just didn't see it. Now, I want to talk about this historical event we mentioned at the start of the interview. How did things change for you? I mean, obviously a lot of people around Australia right now are just coming out of an interesting time in their lives, an interesting time in their kids' lives.
Not up here in Queensland, though.
Yeah, not in Queensland. No. Life's always been the same up there. One, you were homeschooling, one of them,
Yeah. Wow. Yeah.
with others around as
Yeah.
well.
It was truly the worst 4 months of my life.
Okay.
The COVID before in 2020.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I remember that sucking, but I also remember being like, oh no, I mean, we've kind of found our groove and our rhythm a few weeks in. Working with my husband every single day, like having him home, that was the hardest part in 2020 because we had 3 kids and our house, when we built it, we knocked down all of the walls. So it's a completely open plan house, which means there's nowhere that he can work where the kids won't find him. And because he tends to be the fun parent because he only sees them on the weekend, so it's so much fun.
His sleeve and his trousers are being tugged.
Or they're like streaking behind him nude. Yeah, at that stage.
The Zoom calls,
Yeah.
All right.
My middle child refused to wear clothes basically the entire COVID 2020. But it was okay. Whereas 2021, Charlie had started school and she was in kindergarten and I'd heard that homeschooling was horrific, but I was like, oh, how hard could it be? It's so much worse than what, again, I anticipated because there's this unspoken about pressure to make sure she stays on top of her work. And kindy's such a, it's the foundation upon which her education will grow up from and you can't let them slip. But what kid listens to their mum when it comes to schooling? No one.
No, you need a third party.
You absolutely need a third party. And so I would try and sit down with her at the start of every day. And she's quite a bright kid and she would pull out every single trick in her little bag of tricks in order to get out of doing homeschooling. There would be tears. She would wet herself sometimes. She's been
bold.
potty
I like
trained.
that one.
She has been she's been wearing undies for 3 years now. She does not wet herself, but she would do anything and everything. But what happened the minute I would try and spend time with her and the other 2 bin chickens would be out trashing my house.
Yeah.
Kobe's the worst at the moment as a 2-year-old. They are huge liabilities.
Discovering how to make noise.
Oh,
Not just with their mouth, just with pans and pots.
and glassware and
yeah.
crockery. Bobby would open the front door and I'd find Kobe halfway up the street. He likes to also remove his nappy, so he's usually nude from the waist down.
Yep.
It was a legitimate nightmare.
Yeah.
So I'd take my eyes off Charlie and then she would hide her laptop, so her iPad, and then we couldn't find it for like a week.
Yeah.
And that's what they would send all their schoolwork home on, their iPads, or they'd send out links and they had to do all their schoolwork on iPads. So it was basically a nightmare. I'm pretty sure she's gone backwards having me as a teacher.
Yep.
She's definitely dumber.
Her and hundreds of thousands of other kids around Australia. Do not worry
So-
about that.
So kids are going back to school now in New South Wales, have they?
Yeah.
Right. So how's she coping with the transition back to school?
Oh, she wanted to go back to school. She was dying to get back to school by the end of it. She and I, and it was, to put a damper on the story, it actually got to a point where it was quite really upsetting because I'm so close with her and she's like my little wing woman and I just wanted to be her mum and her friend and I didn't want to be this teacher that would always try and get her to do her schoolwork and she didn't really like me and I didn't really like her and I ended up saying to her teacher, listen, we're clocking off early. We're having at least a 4-week holiday.
Yeah.
So she bounded. She skipped straight into school. She was like, don't even walk me to the gate. I've got this. See you later.
The very unfortunate thing about the pandemic, on top of everything that it brought with us, was the fact that you actually couldn't really interact too much with your extended family. So any slack that I'm not sure, have you got family around in New South Wales that could usually, outside of a historical, incredibly infectious outbreak of a respiratory illness that tends to affect people your parents' age.
Yes.
Would you be able to
normally lean on them?
Yeah, do an offload here and there.
Absolutely. Like my parents are 10 minutes from my house.
Yeah, okay.
Brothers, 2 sets of brothers and wives we're all 10 minutes from each other.
Yeah.
So normally I've got babysitters at the ready.
Yeah.
And they were just out of reach. It hurt.
It just sounds like that's just the icing on top of it. It's like you can't do anything.
Yeah.
Also, please leave your family alone. Your extended family. Mm-hmm. The idea of this pandemic in itself is a good metaphor for everything you've kind of gone through and you've shown everyone. Is like the pandemic basically, from our level to the politicians, it felt like we were building the plane as we were flying it.
Yep.
Do you find that it's been similar in young parenthood with you as well? Like there's not many. You have to do 100 hours in a car to become a qualified driver. They don't really have those kind of checks and balances. Not that, anyone feels they need them, but it definitely does feel like something you land on day one and you learn how to drive this thing.
With parenthood?
Yeah.
Yeah, listen, I'm a big believer that your first child, it's all trial and error.
Yep.
Like, so you're going to do so much wrong. Mm-hmm. And I reckon I can only say, having had my third, that I can confidently say that I know what I'm doing. Mm-hmm. And I can recognise a different cry to a distressed one and or just a whinge. And I know if they've got croup or if they've got some sort of illness, I know how to stay calm. And first one, you're just all over the place. Like you don't get a manual when you go home with a baby, which was the biggest spin out for me because I was like, oh, well, like what do I do with this thing? So it's all definitely trial and error. Bobby, he got a bit more of a confident version of me. Kobe, yeah, he's chilled. He's chilled because I know I'm chilled. I know what I'm doing now. I'm very relaxed. He basically raises himself.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Were you one of those young girls when you were a kid kind of watch The Sound of Music and think,
yes,
I'd like 7 of them?
Yes, that was me. That was my favourite movie. Sick in the head to think that I would have 7 children now, just honestly. I did always want like 4 or 5 though.
Yeah.
My nan had 6 and right. I remember when I'd had my second, she said, oh, you should stop here. Yep. And I said, oh, that's weird. You had 6 children. She goes, yeah, but take it from me. Like 2 is great. You'll have a really fantastic life. It's really easy. 1 kid each parent. I think because I was one of 3, I was like, bare minimum, I'm always going to do 3. Yeah. But 3 definitely tipped me over the edge. Yeah. Like I think now day and age, my mum did 3, but she stayed home for like 9 years. Yeah. And there was no social commitments. They didn't have mobile phones. She didn't do anything.
They just had the landline in the hallway.
Literally. I think she went to playgroup once a week and that was it. Yeah. And she'll say, I climbed the walls. Yeah. It was very boring, but it was easy.
The only time she met other adults was at chickenpox parties.
Yeah, exactly. Whereas nowadays, people want to have the children, but they want to work and they want to maintain balance. A career and they want to have social life. And it's hard. Yeah. Yeah.
Now, let's talk about how this has kind of become, a life that you were kind of documenting and sharing to now where it's become, as we said before, you're a podcaster and you're talking about this life to those same people who are tuning in.
Yep.
How does it feel to now kind of, and I know you definitely don't view yourself as this, but now you are kind of viewed as a voice, almost an authority. How does that feel? You don't want that to be the case, but, a lot of people would say, what would Amy do?
Yeah. Look, I have hardcore imposter syndrome. Yeah. I think that's wild. And like I said, I would never give unsolicited advice just off the cuff, but I will absolutely go above and beyond and help somebody. And I'll share my experiences and I'll give my opinion. It's not always right, but I'm happy to always share what I've done. It's still quite wild to think that people listen to what I have to say. I don't know whether it's the rawness that I've always delivered things with, or maybe the kind of the sense of humor, or I tend to have a more positively skewed view on life. Kids, they're hectic and they're hard work, but I'll still find the humour in each situation and be able to have a laugh about it. I don't know if did that even answer your question?
Yeah, no, I know what you're saying. It's like you've just got to do what you're doing. What I want to ask is this is probably one of the tricky questions we're going to ask today is what are the taboos? You know what I mean? You're raw, you're honest, you give the details. What have you found you won't go near again? I mean, obviously, in this day and age, there's certain conversations around medical science that probably aren't worth putting out there to a audience as large as yours.
Yeah. Oh, listen, I try to not touch on things like politics, religion, certain things like that. But otherwise, in terms of anything that's related to my own life, I'm a pretty open book.
You'll wear the backlash too.
Yeah, I'm a pretty open book. I'll talk about anything from, birthing a child with a 38 centimetre head, what that did to my pelvic floor, the journey to recover that.
Yep.
We went to Vagina CrossFit. I'll talk about, marriage, trials and tribulations, what marriage looks like after you've got 3 kids.
Yep.
Yeah, I share most things, and I think a lot of people can relate to a lot of things that I say.
Is Ryan aware of how many people are following his young family?
He is aware, yeah. He's aware. He's actually pretty low-key and pretty relaxed about things. I tend to run a lot of things past him first.
Yeah.
So we did a podcast and it was all about what your sex life looks like after 3 children. And he was the first person that I got to listen to it. Yeah. And at the end of the day, I will always respect him. If he was like, get that fucking thing off the airways, I would absolutely do it. But he was like, no, sweet.
Well, can you see a future in podcasting, or do you think there will be a time where, you put the wig back on and go back to law?
Oh, God, I'm never going back to law. Never going back to law. I really am enjoying podcasting so far.
Yeah.
I mean, it took me a while to kind of find my groove. But it's nice because I think with Instagram, there's little squares and I think you can write 22,000 characters. But it's a little bit more of a personal deep dive into my personality, and I can share more on certain topics and stuff. Topics that I only kind of skim the surface of on the gram.
Yep.
So it's been cool.
Yeah, you so obviously big hit out, number one across Australia. We'll say it again. Beyond the likes. What are you looking at here? Have you got a different topic each week, or is there going to be a little bit of just a catch up?
Listen, there's going to be little bits of catch-ups at the beginning of each episode, but there's going to be different topics all week. So I think the next one we're going to chat about is different styles of parenting. Because you know that show that's on TV at the moment, Parental Guidance? I don't know if you've seen it.
Yeah, I've seen it. Seen flashes of that.
It's pretty wild. Like, just watch it. There's so many different types of parenting styles. I did a skit on it on my Instagram and IGTV. Well, just taking the piss. But I think that will be a really interesting topic. We're going to cover things like, periods. I'm going to get Ryan on as a guest.
Yep.
I want people to send through questions and stuff. They can ask him. Nothing is off limits. But yeah, it'll just be, I want it to be kind of current as well. So if something's happening in the world, I want to have a chat about that and just go with the flow, really.
Well, just as we wrap up, what kind of other styles of parenting are there out there? I mean, the one you've we've spoken about today sounds very much like the all on deck, But
at the same time, it doesn't sound like helicopter parenting either.
Helicopter parenting is one.
Yeah, right.
So you've got helicopter. So I was watching this show and you've got strict.
Yeah.
They're very authoritative.
Yep.
Like you are an authoritative person, and anyway, there's strict. There is attachment style parenting. There is what was the other one? There's helicopter.
So these are more archetypes. As I was thinking, we were talking like Steiner parenting or like edutainment or.
Oh no, just from this show.
Yeah.
Otherwise, you've got like the gentle parents,
the cool parents.
Yeah. I feel like everybody sets out to be a gentle parent.
Yeah.
Like I sure as shit don't wake up and I'm like, I'm going to lose my shit today.
Yeah.
I always set out with the right intentions, but. There's certain kids that will just push and push and push.
Which one's
your
that?
That's my middle one.
Your middle one, yeah.
And he's the most lovable, but he just knows. Like you'll be like, "Stop doing that, Bobby. Stop doing that, Bobby," and you'll ask him 100 times, and he'll just keep doing it.
He'll look at you as he does it.
And he'll look at you as he does it, and he'll just keep doing it. What? Oh, you want me to stop doing this part here? Yeah. Oh, stop? No. So then you blow your stack and whatever. I'm not a perfect parent, but I wake up every day and I give it my all.
And a lot of people are joining you on this journey.
Yes.
Be that on Instagram or now on podcasting.
podcast.
And I'm hopefully, to all you lot out there listening to the Betoota Advocate radio show, this might be something worth checking out, whether you're in the midst of all this or preparing to venture into this world.
Or like 80% of our listeners, they listen to the show exclusively on tractors.
Yep. So
Yep.
it's something for them to learn too. So thank you for joining us today, Amy.
Thank you.
It was an interesting and actually quite insightful into particularly the last 2 years where we think a lot of people have taken for granted what has been happening in a lot of households around Australia. And as you just described it sounds like fresh hell.
Literally fresh hell. It's a good time. Loads of love.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, here's to opening back up and
Thank you.
Merry Christmas when that finally comes around.
Same to you too.